Speaking of finding, your latest project that I'm aware of is the last
Yeah.
Kingdom Destiny is All soundtrack. When did you actually work on that?
Oh, we started working on that already like last year, and then we finished it this year. So yeah, and basically, I mean, many of the tracks from there are cues that we've been working on throughout the whole creation of the series, the soundtrack
Right.
for the series. So yeah, it's been a while actually brewing the soundtrack.
Well, I'm very curious about the process of this because sometimes when a composer and recording artist are working on a soundtrack, they have all the video of what they're working with. And other times they're just told, record cool stuff, give it to us, and they fit it in. Did you have any video or the visuals when you were working on the series?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we work to the picture all the time, and our job is to bring out the emotion and the drama of the scenes.
Mhm.
So it's very much working to the picture in this case. Yeah,
So you
definitely
might
that
be the
way
first
around.
person seeing the show.
Yeah, actually,
Wow.
I've seen it very much in bits and pieces because I might maybe get the scene sent over from John, who's the composer of the series, and he'd send me, a specific scene. It might be a battle, a big battle, or it might be a more emotional scene. And so I've seen like bits and pieces of it. So it was really nice to see the movie actually, which was just released, because I can see it all in one piece.
Got it. So this is a compliment that I'm giving you, and it's intended to be a compliment. You have very distinct vocals, and no one sounds like you. So when did you
Thank you.
realize that that was a good thing? And I say that because when you're a kid and you have a different kind of voice, usually people go, match pitch to sound like this. And then obviously when you're older, it's having a new skill set. When did you start to feel comfortable with sounding different from everybody else?
Wow, that's a really good question, and I don't think I've ever gotten this question before in this
Oh,
way. But well, what can I say? I mean, I've always been curious about the human voice, and I've always had like a desire to kind of experiment a lot with how to express myself with my voice, and somehow just naturally it has developed to what it does today. Um, and I like the idea of not sounding like everyone else. But when I was a teenager, I remember I was trying to sound more like, Celine Dion and Mariah Carey and
right.
all these song divas. And that's also a great thing to experiment with. But I think as you grow yourself, you find your own sound somehow. I guess that's the purpose for every singer, to not sound like you, I guess, not
Yeah,
like anyone else.
I compare what you do to somebody like Mike Patton from Faith No More and Mr. Bungle, where if he wants to sound tender or sing a ballad, he can. But if he just wants to growl and scream and scare you, he can do that too. So your voice is your instrument. It's not just like, hey, do one vocal track and go away. It's maybe the most important instrument of the whole thing. So that must have a lot of pressure for you.
Well, I haven't seen it as a pressure. It's more been like a free space for me to move around and to kind of just go crazy. So it's been really fun in that sense. And like you say, there's so much, like for example, a film. There's so much emotion and tension you can bring out with your way of expressing your voice. So it's been really a fun free space for me to play in. Yeah.
Well, so Destiny is All That soundtrack is the latest thing that we know from you, but are you allowed to say what else that you're working on or that you have coming up?
Well, right now I am actually in my studio here in the Faroe Islands, where I spend a lot of time,
Mhm.
and I'm working on my new album actually, and I've been working on my next album now for a year or so. So now I'm trying to kind of finish it up and hopefully have it ready for early next year. So yeah, that fills the space in my head a lot these days, I guess.
Yeah, well, looking through your discography and what you work on, sometimes it's a video game soundtrack, sometimes it's a soundtrack, sometimes it's a collaboration, sometimes it's your career. In other words, you never know what's going to come next from you.
I guess so. Yeah, I've been getting myself into a lot of different adventures the past few years, I guess, and also working on video games. That was also something I never saw coming, but somehow I ended up working on the God of War soundtrack along with Bear McCreary as well, and it's all just been really. I do like having different projects at the same time, because it kind of inspires and opens up some doors in your mind, in your creative brain, I think, when you work on different
Right.
types of things. Yeah.
And who's working on your solo album with you?
Well, I'm working on the productions, like the pre-productions myself, and then I work with Trunter, who is also my husband, who is a producer and composer. And then I work with my band, actually, here in the Faroe Islands. Yeah, and some string players, and, different people bring different elements, which I really like.
Got it. I've had the pleasure of going to Denmark, but never the Faroe Islands. Is there much music scene out there? Meaning, can you play a couple of shows, or are you out there just to work and be quiet?
Well, you can definitely play shows here, but it's a quite tiny place. It's the population is 50,000 people. So I guess you can't really go on a big tour here, but you can do a few shows. You can do a few shows, and I play maybe one show a year, something like that here. But when I'm here, mostly I focus on writing, and I live out in the countryside, so there's not much going on here around me. So it's a good place to focus on your writing, I guess.
I'd have to imagine before the pandemic, you had to travel everywhere to do interviews. And now, being in the Faroe Islands, you could do everything through Zoom. So you're one of the few people that Zoom made everything easier for as an artist.
I guess so. Yeah, it's quite handy, actually, to be able to do it from your house and not have to travel anywhere for interviews.
That's a good, lucky you, I would say. Well,
lucky me, yes.
Well, two quick questions, and then I'll let you go. And the first question is, do you actually play video games, or is it just, hey, you're on the soundtracks and that's a fun gig to have?
That's a trick question.
No, it's not, because some people outright go, hey, I don't like video games since Mario, but if you do, that's good.
Oh, to be honest, I've never in my life played a video game, but I have two younger sisters who are much, more into this kind of thing, and I've watched them play video games, and I'm like amazed. I'm like, oh my God, whoa. And it's crazy to hear your own voice in the video game, and to see also how amazingly beautifully made they are, these video games, such as God of War. It's like a really intense and emotional game that you can. It's a whole world on its own, which blows my mind.
Yeah, it's higher budget than all the television we grew up watching, and maybe most of the movies we grew up watching too, you know?
Yeah, I heard it's huge. And I was yeah, when I first got into it, I had no ideas on exactly like how it worked. But when I then, saw the full game played, I was amazed how it works. It's
And
amazing.
and then my last question for you, I'm always curious about when people work in television and film, I find that the things that they work on are the exact opposite of what they watch or do for fun. So meaning comedians don't watch any comedy. That's what I find. In your case, what do you watch on television when you can?
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, that's actually quite correct because I mean I'm not someone who watches Viking series very much. I'm someone who likes, Breaking Bad or Fargo or those kinds of movies, and series. I like Peaky Blinders and I don't know. So I don't watch many Viking series, but I have watched The Last Kingdom because I make the music for it. And I
Oh, of
do like
course.
it. I do like it. It kind of,
Of
yeah,
course,
it's funny
critically
how these
acclaimed
things
and
work.
commercially successful television.
Exactly. And you know what? I also, regarding singers, I don't listen much to female voices. I listen a lot to like male voices, and like Leonard Cohen is my favorite voice, and that's kind of the opposite of what I do. So
Yeah.
you have a good point there.
Well, I think that anything you start off doing for a living immediately is your passion. Then it becomes work, no matter how much joy it brings you. It becomes work, and you go, what's the exact opposite? So I'm sure the smartest scientists in the world like the dumbest comedy and the dumbest sports. That's my theory. I can't prove it, but I think that's the case.
I think you have a very good point.
And
Very
actually,
good. Something to think about.
one more stupid name. One more stupid question, rather, and I just subtexted myself there before I let you go, actually. The first time I heard your first name was in the Who song called A Quick One While He's Away. Is that something that you're familiar with?
What? No.
They
What's that?
rhyme your name with engine driver. So, in other words, it's a lyric by Pete Sematary. It goes, my name is Eivør. I'm an engine driver. Yeah. No one ever said that to you?
No, you're the first one.
Okay.
But
Well,
you know what? I could say that when people have trouble in America, if they have trouble pronouncing my name, I could say that actually, right? That would help.
I mean, nobody calls a truck driver an engine driver in the US. I just always wondered, were your parents secretly Who fans? And that's how the name came up.
Good question. I'll ask my mom. I'll see her later today.
Well, hey, thank you for your time. Thank you for your honesty. And thank you for the many years of great art. Looking forward to your next project that you have coming up.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Paltrocast.